So today is our follow-up class to the different kind of programs that you can use to facilitate a meeting. And right now we're going to be jumping into Zoom. Unfortunately, as you've noticed, we're not using Zoom to do this meeting on Zoom. And that's because if you're in a Zoom meeting and you share your screen, you cannot share any Zoom window or information. So right now we are using 8x8, which is essentially Jitsi, which is one of the options that we're not going to learn about, but everyone's using it, so it can't have been too difficult to figure out. And we're going to go right into Zoom. The first thing I'd like to say about Zoom is it is the largest. So this is like if you're out in the wild, most of the conferences you'll be invited to or you participate in will generally be on Zoom. And one of the easiest things to do with Zoom, in my opinion, is to download the app, and we'll go over that at a little bit later time. But a lot of what we're going to be doing today is going to involve the app, and a lot of what we're going to be doing today is once you log into Zoom on your web browser, which gives you a little bit more options. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to log in to the Zoom app on my computer, and I'm going to start a meeting immediately. And you're going to see every process, every step that I do to make that happen. So if you can see on my screen, I have Zoom Cloud Meetings application open. I'm going to mute everyone. And if you are muted, you can unmute yourself at any time in the bottom middle, but you can always type a message in the chat and we will stop at certain points where we can ask questions or go into greater detail on a certain thing. All right, so yes, so I'm going to log in to Zoom. How I do that is I actually have my password manager up on my other screen that you can't see, and then I'll copy and paste my password. Once my password is pasted, I will then hit the sign in button, which is the little blue rectangle, and this little screen pops up. This is the application, the home screen for Zoom. You have a couple of options on the left-hand side. There's new meeting, there's join, there's schedule, and there's share screen. So both new meeting and share screen will essentially just instantly give you a link that you can send to someone else and they can join your meeting. Join will allow you to join someone else's meeting, and schedule will allow you to schedule a meeting for a later date. So I'm going to hit new meeting. I hit new meeting and it just automatically opens up a brand new meeting under my account. Basically right here, join with computer audio and test speaker and microphone. This is just to join the audio service so you can hear and people can hear what you have to say. So I will join with computer audio. It will give me a little message that says you are using computer audio. And now I am in a meeting. Now, after this step, I need to invite somebody because no one else is in this meeting. So how do I do that? Well, if I go to the top left-hand corner of this screen, it'll say meeting information. There's going to be a little green shield icon. I'll click on that and I'll have all of the information I need to send somebody the meeting invite. Now, you may notice that there's a lot of different options and it's kind of annoying just because you can't like copy everything. But what you can do is there's an invite link option right here, and there's a little copy link button. If I hit the copy link button, now the URL is copied to my clipboard. And basically what I would do now is I would email the meeting invite to somebody and they would put it into their web browser, and then a couple of different options would occur. Can I change my, it's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't think I can in Zoom. Let me check about just making it bigger overall.
Timmy, oh yeah, until you're actually in the meeting, you can't make it full computer screen. Once you're in and there's another person in, then you should have the option to do view gallery, view speaker, or full screen.
Oh, sorry. I thought she meant, can you increase the size of your screen share print? Like just, it was hard to look at the thing, so I just made my screen
Okay.
175%.
Oh, perfect.
Just
That's
to,
a better way.
because hopefully that'll make the, the words a little bit larger.
Yeah.
So again, copy link, and then I would email it to somebody else. In this case, I'm going to pretend that I emailed it to myself. I will open up Chrome, and I will just paste that link into Chrome. Now, if you notice, it says HTTPS, that's good. This is the meeting ID, and this is the password. So by sending somebody that link, I've automatically given them the password. They don't actually have to put that in separately. I'll just hit return, and this pops up. So this little pop-up says open Zoom meetings, ? And it says it wants to open an application. What this means is if you hit open Zoom meetings, it will open the Zoom application on your computer, or if you don't have the Zoom application on your computer, it will prompt you to download the Zoom application and then log you in that way. Even if you go that route, you do not have to have a Zoom account in order to join a meeting. You can just join it as a guest. But because of something I did earlier, I do not have to use Zoom meetings to join this Zoom call. So I'm going to hit cancel. Now, as you can see, we now have this big thing in the center that says launch meeting. What that will do is the same thing as the pop-up would have done. It would download the meeting invite and then launch it on my computer using the Zoom application. Because I am using the Zoom application on my computer already, I can't do that. So what I have done is I have enabled my Zoom meetings to be joined through the browser. So I have this little button, and I can tell you guys how to do this. One of the benefits of allowing people to join from the browser is if anyone has an issue with the Zoom client not working, or it's not updated, or it's slow, or for whatever reason, sometimes the browser version is easier to use. So I'm going to hit join from my browser. I will click on that. It will ask me my name. This is as if I'm a guest. I do not have to sign in with a Zoom account in order to do this. My name will be Hi. I will hit I am not a robot, and I will hit join. Now I am in the Zoom call on my browser. This may look a little bit different from the actual Zoom application, but it's all of the same information. It will also look a little bit different because my screen size is like zoomed in crazily. So it kind of will change how things are oriented to fit all the information on the screen. The first thing that happens whenever you join a Zoom meeting is it will ask you to join the audio. There are two options, phone call and computer audio. Just a note for right now, phone call audio does not work for free accounts on Zoom. But either way, that doesn't matter to us because we're going to be using computer audio, and I will just hit join audio by computer. Now that I have done that and muted myself, I'm in the meeting with audio. If I kept myself unmuted, unfortunately, you would hear the audio twice through the Zoom meeting, so we don't want to have that happen. Now, one thing that may happen whenever you join a Zoom meeting is you may be in the meeting, you may be able to hear somebody, but you can't speak. There are a couple of reasons for that. One, this mute, make sure it doesn't have the red slash. What this means is that you are muted. The other thing is if you have multiple microphones on your computer, it could be using the wrong one. So how you check this is you would go to this little arrow to the right of the mute and unmute icon, click on that, and it will give you all of the different options you have from microphones and speakers. As you can see, I have a lot. I imagine most of you will not have this same level of stuff. And basically I would just make sure that I have the correct audio device selected, and then I would just close it, and now we're good, and hopefully that fixed the problem. For video, you can see this has a red mark through it. That means I'm not sharing video, but if I wanted to, I could turn that on, and then I would be able to share video. One thing that's very important to understand is if you are trying to use your video camera for two different applications, it generally will not work. Your video camera can only be sent to one application. So for example, if you open up the photo gallery or the photo application on your computer in order to check to see what's in frame behind you, and you forget to close that, then whenever you join a Zoom meeting, you won't be able to have your video on. So in case anyone has ever experienced that, that's how that works. So if I go back to the Zoom meeting on the application on my desktop, you're going to see a little bit more options. The first thing is this little up arrow. This is kind of all of the video options you have. Now we had a couple emailed requests on how to change like the different video settings, so we're going to go right through them. The first thing you can see when they hit the little up arrow is it has select a camera. This is the only camera I have on attached to the system, so that's the only one. And I have other options of choose a virtual background, choose video filter, and video settings. Now, if you've ever been in a meeting and someone has, had, a beach behind them, how they've done that is the virtual background. So I'll click on that first. Once I've clicked on the virtual background, the settings window will pop up with backgrounds and filters. Now I have virtual backgrounds and video filters are both options. Virtual backgrounds are, the beach scene that's behind you or the whatever picture you want to bring in. Now how you add a picture is this little plus icon. If you hit the plus icon on the right-hand side, you'll have two options, add image and add video. Now, the nice thing about this is if you have a video you want to play in the background, you can play that. If you have just a still image that you want in the background, you can do that. So either way, you would click this plus icon. I will go to add image. It will automatically open up wherever your default is. You will click on an image. You will hit open. And now you can see that that background image is selectable. Again, because I'm using two different video applications, my video camera does not know what to do, so it won't actually display anything. Now we have two different options down here. I have a green screen and mirror my video. If you have a green screen, you kind of already know that you have a green screen, and you would click this option. Mirror my video is an option for if sometimes it's disconcerting to see yourself moving in the direction that you don't think that you are because your video hasn't been mirrored. So I generally recommend to leave mirror my video on. Otherwise, people do weird things. And how did I get to this screen I'm on now in order to select a background? Great question. We'll go right back and show you how to do that. So again, start video. You go to so on the bottom left, there's a little up arrow. I will click on that and I will choose the selection that says choose virtual background. And then if I wanted to add a new background, I would go to the right-hand side where there's a little plus button, hit that, click on Add Image, and then I would select the image I wanted to add and hit Open. The next option is Studio Effects. Now this is in beta, but it's been in beta for 6 months or something, so it's not really in beta. And if you don't see this option, it's because of one of two things. One, this only works on the actual application. So you want to make sure that you're using the application on the computer, and then you can use the studio effects. And two, you may not have an updated version of Zoom. So whenever you open Zoom, it should basically give you a prompt that says, hey, do you want to update Zoom? And you would hit yes. Now, studio effects are fun. They're not really anything special, but they're fun. So you can give yourself thicker eyebrows. You can change the color of your eyebrows. Opacity, you can give yourself a beard. You can change the color of the beard. You can change your lip color. And there will also be kind of holiday specific options you can select. So for example, whenever Christmas was happening, you could do a Santa hat. You could do the reindeer antlers. So it's kind of fun and whimsical, but definitely not needed. One thing to note though, if you're on a meeting that is fun and whimsical and you have this check mark applied, and then you jump into a conference call with a business and it turns out you have, a bright pink beard and purple eyebrows and antlers, maybe that's not the best look. So just be aware that whatever you select here, if apply to all future meetings is selected, it will save your settings for the next meeting you join in. The same
That,
thing is with virtual backgrounds.
Tim, that's never happened to you, right?
Never, because I don't use video on this. So yeah, that was video effects, and these will change and you'll get more options as time goes on. The next option we're going to go over is choose video filter. Now, what this is kind of the same thing, um, but it's a filter. So this is where they'll have kind of all the backup stuff. So Santa hat, antlers, you can give yourself little comic book squares of stuff. You can also kind of change your lighting. So if you have a really harsh white light, then you can kind of make it more cinnamon so your skin looks better. I don't really know. My skin is what it is. I'm not really trying to change anything here. But there are a lot of different video filters that you can do. You can do hats. Pirate hat could be fun. So lots of different options. And again, these will grow as Zoom does. So you'll get more and more options. One question was, is this only for Zoom or can you choose a background for general use? This is only for while you're using your video in the Zoom application. Mary, have you tried any of the filters or anything like that?
I have. I used to, when we started having remote meetings, I put outer space in the background because I thought that would be significant. And we have played during a holiday meeting, staff meeting with mustaches and beards. It was pretty fun. But my favorite filter is improving your appearance on Zoom. Can you show them that?
Sure. Uh, which one is that? Or is that just in the studio effects?
I think if
Oh,
you go,
sorry.
yeah,
Video, right? Yeah.
yeah.
So in general, this is just like a general thing. If you go to video, right now previously we were under background and filters, but if we go to the video option, which I believe you can get to by just going down here and hitting video settings,
Mhm.
you have more options. So again, camera, make sure it's the right one. HD if you want your image to be a little bit better, but the bigger ones are the three under My Video. Mirror My Video, I've already explained what that is. touch up my appearance, what this does is it does like a little soft glow. So like wrinkles and stuff, you know how on the cover of Vogue, people have very unrealistic faces with where they've never seen a pore a day in their life, and their wrinkles magically haven't changed from when they were 18. Yeah, so if you hit touch up my appearance, it will kind of do, the wrinkle reduction, it'll do stuff. Um, since I have facial hair, it doesn't really do as much to me, but feel free to hit touch up my appearance. The only thing to note is it will take a little bit more processing power from your computer and send and receive a little bit more data. So if your video is cutting in and out, these are kind of the things you would take off, is touch up my appearance and adjust for low light. And on that note, adjust for low light is just if you have really, really bad lighting, you would hit adjust for low light and it would try and make you more visible. I don't know if you've ever been in a Zoom call where someone seemingly is in a closet that has not seen a light bulb for years and all you can see is like their teeth and their eyes occasionally. If they hit adjust for low light, it would try and compensate for that and actually show you their face. The other options in this in this setting menu is kind of more, I guess, important ones. Uh, and this is kind of for your personal preference. So always display participant names on their video. You can toggle this on and off. You can tell the, Zoom whenever you join a meeting, you don't immediately want to have your video posted, and then you can manually start it. So that is what these options are for, and they're pretty self-explanatory. The next option, which may or may not be of import to anyone, is the maximum participants displayed per screen in gallery view. We'll go over the different views in a second, but essentially what this means is right now the maximum is set to 25 participants, but if you have a meeting where you need to see 30 people at one time, like if you're a classroom teacher, then you would want to raise that level. The negative thing with this is it makes all of the individual videos smaller. So the more videos you have that you're looking at one time, the less of each video you see. There's also advanced. We're not really going to get into this, but if there's time at the end, someone can remember to ask to show the more advanced video options. In that vein, the audio menu, this is where you would go if you're experiencing an audio problem and you don't know why. If you look at this, basically the main use of this menu is just to make sure that your microphone is working. As you can see, I am talking and the input level is moving, which means that my audio is being picked up by Zoom. There are a couple of different options that you can do here. You just want to make sure that you have the correct microphone selected. And if you want to test the mic, what this will do, I'm not going to do it, but what this will do is it will ask you to say something like onomatopoeia. And then after it senses that you have stopped talking, it will then play the sound back to you so you can hear what you sound like. All right, so audio, video, done. All right, perfect. The next option is security. If you are not the owner of the meeting, you don't really have to worry about this. But if you are the owner, this is where you can set your security settings. If I click on this, I can lock the meeting. If I hit lock meeting, no one else is able to join. If I hit enable waiting room, that means kind of what most of you experienced where you logged into the meeting, you clicked on the link, and then you had to wait for me to let you in. That's what the waiting room is. Hide profile pictures. This just means that any picture people put as their profile, you won't see them. And then down here is what you allow the people who are in the meeting to do. Right now, I have everyone who's in this meeting, which is me and myself. We can chat, we can rename ourselves, we can unmute ourselves, and we can start video. The only one I don't have is share screen. If you have share screen allowed, anyone who's in the meeting is able to share their screen. We'll go over this in a little bit, but Zoom has two options. One option is to allow only one person to share a screen at a time, and the other one is to allow multiple people to share screen at a time. So if you have share participants or share screen allowed, and you're presenting something and someone accidentally clicks on share screen, it will bump you off, and their screen will be the one that's being shown. The other option is you can remove a participant and you can suspend participant activities. The next option is participants. If I click on that, a little window will pop up and it will show me everyone who's in the meeting. Now, as the host, there are a couple of different things I can do. If I want someone to be able to speak, but they're still muted, if I hit ask to unmute, a little thing will pop up on their screen and it will say like, hey, you've been asked to unmute, and then they can unmute. If I hit more, I can ask them to start video. I can make them the host. I can make them the co-host. I can rename them. I can pretty much do whatever I want to the participants. Next option is chat. Just like with the participants option, it'll pop up, and in here I can type messages and then everyone can see them. Now, if you've noticed and you have a keen eye, I can click on the everyone option. There is a drop-down menu once I click it, and I can selectively talk to an individual, and no one else in the meeting will be able to see it. Now, if you were in our previous class, you will know that that's not 100% true. As teachers have found out, much to their joy, if students are talking directly to one another during class, the teacher won't see it. But once the class is over, the teacher will have access to see all of their direct messages, which has gotten, I'm sure, quite a few kids in trouble. So if you're in a Zoom meeting and you do a direct message, the host and the owner of the meeting are going to be able to see that after the meeting's done. Just to keep that in mind. Not that anyone would do anything like that. The other option in the chat field is file. What you can do here is you can select a file to share with the meeting. So click on that, you choose where you want to download it or upload it from, your computer, Dropbox, any of these options, and then you can add a file so everyone can view it. This is really nice if you're doing like a condo board meeting and you have a bunch of documents that you want everyone to have. And of course you sent them by email last week, but there's always that person, probably Phil, and Phil just never seems to get that email and always says he never has the document. Well, at the start of the meeting, you can just put all the documents up and then everyone can access them. Last evening, I was in a webinar and asked to submit comments, but they didn't go anywhere where I hit enter. So we'll go over that in a little bit. But basically, if they don't have allow participants to chat, you can type as much as you want and it will never do anything. All right, so that's it for chat. Close. All right, share screen. Now this always gets people up in a kerfuffle. This is the green icon, and if I click on it, it will give me this window. Now, this can be incredibly complicated, but it's not really. So, say you are presenting and you want to share everything that is on your screen. As you can see, I have screen 1 and screen 2. The computer I'm currently using has 2 screens available. So whenever I share my screen, I want to make sure that I select the correct screen. If you look in the top left, I have a 1 icon right here. That means this is screen 1. So I would want to share screen 1. If I hit share, it would now allow me to share my screen. Now, if you do not want to share your entire screen and you just want to share a specific window or application, you can do that as well. If you only want to show what's in your browser, you can hit that. and it will only show what is in your browser. Now keep in mind, if you then close your browser, it will then stop you sharing and you would have to reshare your screen. The other option is you can ask to share an iPhone or iPad if there's something on your phone, but Whiteboard. This is what got a lot of people in trouble very early on, because if you didn't have your meeting locked down, people could get in, do a whiteboard, and draw all sorts of fun pictures. So what the whiteboard is, if I share it, is everyone who's in the meeting, in the Zoom call, will be able to draw on the whiteboard. I imagine this is useful for some circumstances. I personally have a horrible time drawing with my mouse, but I suppose if you wanted to play tic-tac-toe, Whiteboard has you covered. And by sharing the whiteboard, everyone is able to access it, view it, and kind of add their own thing to it. And then I just close it by hitting the X. Now, the next option is record. This is just to record the meeting. So if you want to record the meeting, you would hit the record button. In the top left-hand corner, it would then start a little red light, which I will turn on right now. You can see it says recording in the top left, so the Zoom meeting is being recorded. And to stop it, you just hit the stop, and you can also pause the recording. Now, whenever you set up your application, you can generally have two options if you have a paid Zoom subscription. And the options are as follows. You can either record to the cloud or you can record to your computer. If you record to the cloud, whatever you record will be accessible in your Zoom profile online, and then you can download it, or you can share it from your Zoom account. If you record it to your computer, you can then just kind of send it to whoever wants the recording, and it's on your computer after the recording is done. Mary, do you remember any problems we've had with the recording stuff?
Yes, and one of them is you need to stop the recording before you close the meeting. That was a problem for me. I closed the meeting and had not stopped my recording, and it did not actually finish uploading. So I ended up without the recording of the meeting that I wanted.
Yep. So just be aware that recording is finicky, but this is the button that you use to record. To the right is reactions. If you click on this, you have the options to, for example, raise your hand. So if you want someone to notice you, you can see it pops up in the profile and it has a little hand, and that way the presenter will be able to see who has their hand raised. Now, what's important about this is if the presenter is in gallery view, for example, and you are on the next page, if you raise your hand, it will then bump you so they can view, so they can see you, so they can make sure to see that you have your hand raised. So this is really important for larger meetings. Lower hand. You can also do things like, ooh, they said something really impressive, so joy. I'm feeling joy. So you
Joy?
can, yeah, apparently
Okay.
that's joy.
All right. One of the things, I was in a large meeting the other day, and the nice thing about the raise hands, once you can know where to find it, is you can make sure that everybody is muted. So you don't have a lot of background noise and people, phones ringing in the background, things like that. But people can, when they have a question, they can get your attention.
Exactly. And the next thing is if we go back to participants in that vein, if someone has a dog in the background or for some reason someone in the next house is, running a jackhammer and they haven't muted themselves, if you are the owner of the meeting, you can mute them. So you would just go here and then I'm already muted, so I don't get that option, but you would just have an option to mute the person. All right, so that was what it looks like for the meeting owner. So now we're going to spend just as much time on if you're the participant. Now, normally this is, or not normally, it's been about a year, but normally whenever we were doing these in person, I would have expected laughter there, but everyone's muted, so I will accept that. If we jump over to the participant, we can see that I have chat 2 and it's colored. This is basically an easy way so you don't miss a chat message. So if I click on chat, I can see that I have 2 messages. Now that I've read it, I can click on the top left of that screen to minimize it, close, and now it no longer has that, that color. It's not bringing it to my attention. You can also see that I have a slightly different view on this as a participant than I did here. So basically, I can switch my view very easily. If I want to see whoever is talking as the biggest image possible, I would hit speaker view. If I want everyone to be the same size, I would hit gallery. You get to this by going to the top right and hitting the view icon, speaker view and gallery view. Now, if you wanted it even larger, you would hit view and full screen. And that would just make the Zoom window take up the entire screen so you can see as much as possible. And then exit full screen. So if you want just that little extra bit of size, you can hit full screen and then you can see everything a little bit clearer. All right, now one thing to note is since I'm the participant, if I hit share screen, I get a message that says host disabled sharing, and I hit OK. Now, if I need to share my screen, then the host kind of should allow me to share my screen. One sec, get back. Share screen, I can't do it. So the host would have to, on his side, or on their side, go to my little options, same as right here, and I would ask them to make co-host is honestly the easiest way to allow multiple people to share their screen, because this is just a one-time thing. You can make them co-host and then they're allowed to share. The other thing you can do is you can go to security and allow participants to share screen. I generally think it's easier to just allow, I mean, depending on your meeting, of course, but just to allow one person at a time to share their screen by making them a co-host.
You can also go to the left, I mean, to the right of the share screen, the up button, and get to those multiple participants.
Yep.
So.
And on what Mary was saying, how many participants can share at the same time? One can share, multiple people can share. If you have multiple participants sharing, it will make all the screens smaller. So if you're trying to share something like a Word document, oftentimes this will make it unviewable. And right now I have only host can share, which is why as a participant, I was not able to share my screen without the host allowing me to. Now, the last thing to note is as the host, yep, okay. As the host, how do I end the meeting? Well, there's this nice red button here that says end. If I click on it, I have 2 options. The first option is end meeting for all, and the second option is leave meeting. Now, what this allows you to do is if you are the host and say you're the host for, this presentation today, right? But you have to leave because you have something at 2 o'clock, but the meeting is supposed to go until 2:30. Well, you can't exactly end a meeting for all because that would be rude. So what you would do is you would just hit leave meeting, and then the meeting would go on without you. And you can always make someone a co-host so they have, ability to allow people to share screen and stuff like that. So end meeting for all, leave meeting. If I hit end meeting for all, it will stop this meeting. And if you notice on my other account that I was using, this meeting has been ended. This meeting has been ended by host. Hit OK, and the meeting's over. I have successfully ended the Zoom meeting. Whew. All right, so I tried to take that slow, but I fully realized that we kind of went through every single option, which is a lot of information. I do highly recommend you, if Mary has your information, she will send you the link to the video, and you can always email her for questions related to it, and we can answer it. And we also have the Wednesday drop-in that you can drop in and ask a specific question. Now, some of you may have been thinking because of my little speech there that this meeting was over. That is not the case. You get to suffer through more. So, Mary, do you think anything you want to add at this point while I
No,
take a drink of water?
I know I appreciate everything that you have shown us. It's very hard to do this, but when you get the recording, if you go back over it, everyone, I think you'll feel more comfortable, and once you play with it, and do the tech drop-in on Wednesdays. The link to that is on our website, so you can just click on the link, and you don't have to email me for it, because Tim can answer individual questions if you're coming across a problem. Once you get used to it, it's doable. It's just a lot of information. But thank you, Tim.
All right. So now that everyone's super excited after that short intermission, we're going to be going to the browser and logging into your Zoom account that way. So you just need to open up a browser, go to Zoom, search for Zoom, and it'll be the first result. So let's just do that real quick. Zoom, Zoom video conferencing, web conferencing, webinars, etc., etc. And you see this screen. Now, of course, what we're going to do is we're either going to sign up, it's free, or we are going to just sign in. So I already have an account, so I'm going to hit sign in. Now, email address, nope, wrong one. Doop. Here we go. Sign out. We're going to sign in. This is my fake one. I do have this saved. I will hit sign in. And now I am loaded into my Zoom account. There are things you can do on the Zoom account through the web browser that you can't do through the application. I also prefer the web browser for scheduling meetings, and in the interest of not confusing people by showing them multiple ways of doing the same thing, we're going to stick with the web browser for doing that, purely because of my personal preference. So I'll start on profile. This is just your profile, not much to it. The one thing I will say is please make sure that you have the correct time zone selected. You will cause issues for yourself if you have this set to like Pacific time. You're going to get real confused when your meetings don't show up at the right time. So this should be correct, but if you're setting a meeting for like 1 p.m. and it's ending up at 4, just check right here. All right, so we're going to go to meetings. So if I go to meetings, I can see my upcoming meetings, my previous meetings, my personal room, and meeting templates. So upcoming, we have no meetings planned. Perfect. Time to schedule a meeting. So Mary, I believe we have a meeting at 5 o'clock. So
Yes.
schedule a meeting. You can change the topic and you can add a description. So this is where you kind of, if you're setting these meetings for far in advance, you would want to kind of describe the meeting just so people remembered what it was about. Condo stuff. When, this is just when the meeting is going to be. So I think it's going to be today. I think it is going to be at 5 o'clock. And I think the duration is going to be 1 hour and 30 minutes. Now, one thing to note is Zoom has taken away its free kind of benefit during the pandemic where it didn't have a meeting limit. As a Zoom basic person, so this is my account that I haven't paid for, I only have a 40-minute meeting time with more than one person. If it's just with one other individual, it can be as long as I want. But if I have a free account and I want the meeting to go for more than 40 minutes, you'll have to have a paid account or you'll have to split it up into 2 meetings back to back, which is annoying. So if this is a meeting that would occur every week, I have the option to make this a recurring meeting by clicking that checkbox. Recurrence, weekly, repeat every 1 week on Tuesday at 5, and I will tell it to stop after it has gone on for 13 weeks. Or I can set an end date. So this will create a meeting that you can access every week for 13 weeks. By default, you have to have a passcode now. If you have a paid account, you can create a meeting without a passcode, but because the link that you send to people automatically has the passcode attached to it, I'm not sure why you would turn this off. Security, waiting room. Again, the waiting room is where someone will join the meeting, but they won't automatically get in until you allow them. This is a good option for kind of a meeting that you want to have where you only want to allow people who you know should be in it to access the meeting. Video, on, off. This is just for starting, so you can toggle it so anyone who joins the meeting will automatically have their video off at the start and they will have to manually turn it on. I always recommend to have these off because otherwise you can catch people in awkward situations. Now, meeting options. Allow participants to join anytime. What this means is you, the host, do not have to be in the meeting in order for other people to join the meeting. So if you think that you may be running 10 minutes late to this meeting, you can allow participants to join anytime so that the meeting can get started without you. Mute participants upon entry. I like this option. What this does is as soon as someone joins the meeting, they're muted. And then they would have to manually unmute themselves. So this kind of cuts down on, the washing machine in the background or the dog barking whenever people join a meeting. Automatically record meeting. If I turn this on, I'll automatically get the meeting recorded. And I can always set location blocks. I'm not real big on this, especially because sometimes people use VPNs, so they'll get blocked unnecessarily. But if you have that one person harassing you from the Philippines, you can block all Philippine connections. And then I would hit save. Once I have the meeting saved, now it's on the books. So I have a meeting ID, I have a passcode, I can see that there's a waiting room, and if I want to, I can change any of these settings by hitting edit. One thing to note is if you send out these invites and you edit it, so something important has changed, like if you change the passcode or you do anything that would change the invite link, anyone who has the previous link will no longer be able to access the meeting, and you would have to resend the invitations. The other thing is you can kind of join this with your Google Calendar or your Outlook or Yahoo or almost pretty much whatever you want. And I'll show you how to do that. The process is the same for all of them, but I'm just going to click on Google Calendar. It will ask me to choose an account. I will choose my Google account. It asks me if I want to trust Zoom. I'll hit allow. And now whatever meetings I create using this Zoom profile will automatically go to my Google Calendar. So, what are the benefits of this? Well, the benefit of this is you can now easily share this meeting. And you also have it in your calendar that you probably look at more often than the Zoom calendar. So, how do you share it? Well, on both Outlook and whatever, and Google, you would just start typing the addresses. So, Yvette, I would just start adding people. And then they would get an email. Whoops. They would get an email and they would be asked to confirm that they wanted to be a part of the meeting. And then they would automatically get a calendar invite on their calendar to remind them. Now, if you don't want to link your account, leave. What you can do is you can just go right here under the invite link, hit copy invitation, copy meeting invitation, cancel, and then you can copy and paste it in an email to whoever you want, or you can put it on a website or any of the other ways you may disseminate information.
And that's what I do when I send out the monthly Zoom meetings for tech, is I just copy it and paste it into an email. It's fairly easy.
Yep. I personally like that method as well. I like just copying and pasting and emailing it, but for meetings that are very far in advance, a calendar invitation can be very useful. Now, let's say that it turns out the meeting needs to be moved to Wednesday, but you kind of don't want to mess with all of this stuff because you'd have to send out new invite links and new passcodes and stuff like that. Well, what you can do is on Wednesday, you can just make sure everyone shows up, and whenever it's Wednesday, you just hit start this meeting, and the meeting would just start regardless of when it was on the schedule. So, or if it wanted to be earlier on the Tuesday, you can start it at 2 without changing any of this, just by hitting start this meeting. All right, that's most of what's up with meetings. So we're going to quickly take a little soiree into settings. Now, this is where you're going to get real glassy-eyed if you haven't already. I've noticed everyone has turned their camera off. That was a smart idea. And we're going to go over this in excruciating detail. And always remember that you can go back to this video and just look at the, hour and 5 minute mark to see all of this again. So, security. A lot of these settings you are not able to change if you have a free account. You do have more options if you have a paid account. Just keep that in mind. Waiting room, if you change this, it will make it so that by default, all meetings you create will have a waiting room. If you've noticed, I can't change meeting passcode. Every meeting on free accounts will have to have a passcode. Joining by phone, again, you can't change it. So instead of showing you all of this, I was joking a little bit earlier, I'm just going to quickly do the highlights, or the ones I think are important. There's really only 2, but there's a lot. So, okay, so auto saving chats. This is what you can turn on if you automatically want all of your meetings to have the chat saved. If you remember earlier, I was talking about how if you did a private message in the chat to someone else at the end of the meeting, the host could view those messages. If you have auto-saving chat turned on, it will automatically save the chats for you to view. This is also useful if the meeting is like a work meeting or a condo board meeting or anything that involves something that you want to go back and check on what was said. Auto-saving chats will be useful. File transfer, all this does is it allows people to post files. Oh, we've kind of already gone over screen sharing, but again, this menu is essentially setting the default for all of your meetings. So you can change all of this, for a specific meeting on or off. Where is it? Meeting advanced. Okay, closed captioning. One thing that Zoom offers that if you've been taking advantage of it in the 8x8 slash Jitsi is closed captioning. What this does is if someone is hard of hearing or in a location where they don't want to turn up the speakers if they don't have headphones or something like that, they can read along with what people are saying. So if you turn this on, you can get a third-party service to do closed captioning for you, and then your meetings will have closed captions. And you can also save the captions. Now, the next thing is something I personally find interesting, which is the show a join from your browser link. What this does, this is not on by default, but what this does is it allows people to join the Zoom meeting from their browser. Now, why would this be important? Well, some people, if they have a work computer, they may not be allowed to install an application like Zoom, in which case they would not be able to join your Zoom link if you sent one. But if you have join from browser enabled, then anyone can join the meeting from within their web browser. So I think that one can be important sometimes. The other thing is email notifications. You can turn these on or off, but if a attendee joins a meeting before you do, you'll get an email kind of as a reminder of, hey, someone else is in this meeting, you should probably join. So that is settings. Now, recordings. If you remember earlier, we talked about how you can record a Zoom meeting by hitting the record button. Now, generally, the meeting host is the only person who is able to record the meeting. The meeting host in the options can allow anyone to record, and if that anyone has a Zoom account that is paid, they can get a cloud recording of the meeting, and that would be here. The other option is a local recording, and these are recordings that were saved to the computer, and you can see that I have one from earlier today that I just did this so you would have something to look at, and you can see that it is recorded. And this is where you can kind of go to open it or delete it and view it, all that fun stuff. I'm not really going to go over webinars because webinars are a paid thing that this free account doesn't have access to, but essentially a webinar is the same as what we've experienced here and talked about, but just with a lot more people. Okay, so let me double check my little sheet and make sure I got most of it. Okay, there's only one thing that I forgot to do. So if we go to a meeting, so we're creating a meeting. If we go to advanced options, there will be a option to do an alternative host. Now, one thing you may notice is under advanced options, I do not have this option. That is because you only have this option if you have a paid account. But what will happen is there will be a little option here to add a host, and you would just type in their email address. Whenever that person with that email address joins the meeting, they will get added as a host. One of the important reasons to do this is if you are going to be late to a meeting, but you still want it to be structured with a host, then you can do this and allow someone else to manage the meeting before you arrive. But again, that's only on paid accounts. And that is the last thing I had on my little spreadsheet on my second monitor. Anything you can think of to add, Mary?
No, I think you've covered it thoroughly. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Tim, I have a question.
Yes, Michael, go ahead.
In this screen you're showing right now, I think earlier you said that there's a way to send a link to somebody from that. Is it that you click on new meeting? Or
Are you talking about inviting participants when you're in a meeting?
um I think, I mean, sometimes there may be somebody else you want to invite after you've already sent out a formal invitation, and I just want to send them the link.
Okay.
And so wondering what the easiest way to do that is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, personally, the easiest way I find to do that is to just go to the top left of a meeting and copy the link and send it. The other options would be if you, for example, like I have here, schedule a meeting. If you schedule it and then you go to your email you go to your calendar, the calendar that you have linked. You can then go to the meeting, open it up, and then add guests. That's the other way to do it.
So if you've already scheduled it,
Yeah,
and
if it's scheduled, you can do this.
so if you add guests, is it going to send to the original guests again as well, or just to the new ones?
It will, if they've accepted it, it's already on their calendar, so it should update itself if it's in if they accepted the calendar invite.
But if they haven't accepted it yet,
I don't think it would send them a second email.
okay, but it would send to the new person you've added.
Exactly, to whoever you added.
Okay.
The other thing is if you change something down here, like if you just add a space and then hit save, it will then resend it because it has changed.
Oh, okay.
But I do always recommend just where is it? Just copying and pasting this and sending it to whoever's needed. Now, of course, I like it because I'm generally with smaller meetings where that's more manageable. But if you're in a meeting with like 50 people, that can get kind of annoying to have to manually, you know, send it to all those people over and over again.
Mm. Okay, thank you.
Now, on that vein, at least you can pretty easily create a group of contacts. We did a class on this earlier, but you can add, if it's a Zoom meeting that continually gets created or it's a group of people who always want to come together and have these meetings, you can add all of these people into like a group, and then you can just send the group an email sending the update for like really large meetings. So like for work, we have these meetings which Mary takes care of, but we also have the select board meetings and the budget committee meetings, and everyone who's a part of that board or that committee, we just have a group called budget committee, and then we can just send an email out to the budget committee, and then everyone on the budget committee will get that email instead of adding, the 12 people one at a time.
right. Any other questions for Tim on Zoom?
I mean, I will say you can add contacts in here. You can import them as well, but I generally find it easier just to use my email application for that. But you can add people and send them out this way. Just wanted to throw that in there. It's just not something I like.
I did have one other question. I know you went over this, but it kind of skipped over me. And that is just how to add a background.
Okay, yeah. So adding a background. You can do this in a couple different ways. I'll just show you while you're in a meeting how to do it. And you can always add this at any point and use it later. So once you've added a background, you can use it on any subsequent meeting. So if I go to video, start video down here, click on the little arrow, go to choose virtual background, this will pop up. Now on the right-hand side, there's a little plus button. If I hit the plus button, I can go to add image and then find an image, hit open, and it will add it as a selectable background. And then I would just click on whatever image to use.
And then does it automatically
Yeah, it
stay
would.
as the background, or do you have to save it, or what?
Whatever you see highlighted is what is going to show up. One of the unfortunate things with video conferencing like this is I already have the 8x8 up, which is technically using my camera, so I can't actually use my camera on Zoom. But I can kind of tell you what would happen. If I have none, this would just show an image of my face. If I hit the Golden Gate Bridge, it would then show my face and my torso, my shoulders, and in the background there would be a Golden Gate Bridge. So by clicking on these, this image will change, and it will show you kind of what it's going to look like before you close this and save it.
And when you do another Zoom meeting, will that same background automatically?
I believe so.
There.
I generally don't keep a background for more than one meeting, so I can't say with 100% certainty, but I do believe it saves it as your default with whatever you leave a meeting with.
Okay.
I
And
know, yeah, I know it does it with the effects and with adding mustaches and stuff. So I imagine backgrounds would do it as well.
and it all starts by clicking on the video piece, but with the video off, or does that matter?
Video can be on, video can be off.
Okay.
Actually, let me try this. Fail to start camera. Yep, it's already in use. Yeah, so you would just click down here, video settings, change virtual background, and then you would change it.
Okay.
And it will work. This will still show you, even if video is off, this will still show you the image. You can always see it. It's just not, out to the world yet.
Okay.
And you can play with that. You can just create a meeting of one and play with a lot of these controls just to so you get comfortable with them and find them when you need them.
Oh, yeah, I would highly recommend that. I mean, I guarantee, at least this always happens for me, but as soon as I leave something like this, like 10 minutes later, I have the best question ever. So just play around with this while it's still fresh. If you have the emotional fortitude after an hour and a half listening to me talk, and kind of play around, write down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 questions, and just email them to Mary.
Mhm.
And then we can respond. One thing I would like to do, feels like this is winding down, but
Okay.
again, I'm able to stay here for a long time.
I just
Is
I gotta
Yep.
say one thing before I forget. When you were just talking, Mary,
Mhm.
it just
Yes.
hit me that your voice sounded like Terry Gross.
I wish there were a filter to make that happen. Thank you.
So I don't know if anyone else
There
would
Thank
say
is a
the same,
filter.
but
for,
I,
for-
I suddenly thought I was listening to NPR.
Terry
um,
Gross, is that the person? That's not the person who does the voices. That's Phil Castle, right?
right, right.
On my
She does
answering
fresh.
Okay,
machine.
Terry Gross does fresh air, so maybe this is fresh air we're tuned into.
There we go.
Yes.
Kath has a hand up.
Oh,
Kath,
okay.
you have something that you want to ask? You're
Oh,
muted.
the icon is blue. I didn't notice it because I thought it was going to be yellow, like with Zoom.
Kath, unmute yourself.
How do I ask?
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Actually, Tim, I've got 4 points, and I'm kind of wondering if 3 of these would fall into maybe a different presentation by you and not this one. One was how to even set up a Google Calendar. Another one, changing to private chats. And then on the webinars, being asked for input by the people doing the program, and yet writing in comments that they wanted on specific points, but yet it not moving anywhere. You're just sitting there, and none of your comments are moving in, even though they've asked for them. So I kind of think maybe they might be some other program you would do. But the one here today, you said changing Tuesday to Wednesday meetings, and you wouldn't send anything out. But how would the people who would normally be at a 2 o'clock Tuesday meeting know that all of a sudden it was going to be a 2 o'clock Wednesday?
Okay, great question. I'm going to, one second, I'm going to mute you. I just hear background noise. Oh, you muted yourself. Okay, so Google Calendar, how to do all that stuff. I think that's great. I think that's would be a part of a kind of a overall how to use the Google Applications class. I believe Mary and I are setting one of those up.
Yep.
The next thing was private chat. I'll go over that right now. Unfortunately, I need to copy link. I'll need to invite myself to another chat. Chrome. Whoops. I am not a robot. I swear. Join audio. Mute before I get reverb. All right, so private chat. Right now I'm typing to everyone, and there's only one other person here.
We're
So
not
if I
seeing
go
your
down
screen.
here, oh, we're not?
No.
Did I somehow stop it? I mean, I'll stop and start it again.
Okay. There we go.
Okay. So if I go into the Zoom meeting and I go to chat, basically right now, any message I type will go to everyone. If I want it to go to a certain person, I would go to this drop down in the bottom right and select the person I wanted to do a direct message to. And you can kind of see the difference. It will say from me to person, direct message, and it will say the message. Whereas before it said from me to everyone. The one thing to note is if you are set on direct message, the next message you type will do the same thing. So just make sure if you want to send a direct message to somebody that you have them selected, because it will save whatever you have just typed, whoever you typed it to, and send it to them again. So that's kind of private chat. The question with the webinar, I could see Mary and I doing a webinar class on it. That would have to use the library account. I believe the
Right.
library account has access to webinar. I'm not sure what spending level we have on it if we have
Right.
webinar enabled, but we can definitely check on that. Because I've never hosted a webinar on Zoom. I've only been a part of them. And at least from the participant side, it seemed incredibly similar to just a normal Zoom meeting. And I think there was a fourth. Mary, do you remember the fourth
Yes.
question?
If you start a meeting that was scheduled for Wednesday
Oh,
on
right.
Tuesday,
Okay.
how will everyone else know?
Yep. So that was kind of an off-the-cuff remark. Probably shouldn't have said that. But basically what I was getting at is whenever you have a meeting scheduled, my meetings, this one, whenever you have it scheduled, sometimes if it's a small group of people, I find it easier to just manually, for everyone, like, all 5 of you or all 10 of you, to say like, hey, we're going to move the meeting to a different date. Instead of changing the time by going to edit, only this meeting, change this to Wednesday, and then saving it, and saving it. There we go. So now this meeting has been changed. Instead of doing that, we can just get together on Wednesday at the correct time, and I can just hit start this meeting, and it will just automatically start regardless of the schedule. So again, you can, if you wanted it to change, you can hit edit, only this meeting, to only change this one meeting, and then you can change the date on it. The date, you can change the time, maybe a little bit earlier start, and then you would hit save. And if people had this meeting added to their calendar, it would then change it. If they hadn't accepted it, it wouldn't change it on their calendar. But either way, you can always go to start this meeting whenever you want, and the meeting will start, and then people can join with the same link that was already provided, or you can always email them the link again if they forgot it.
Does that make sense, Kath? You're muted. So Kath, you have your hand up again. Did that make sense what Tim was explaining? Oh, she's muted. Does anybody else have any questions for Tim?
Oop, okay.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, so now I realize, yeah, you can just do it for a one-time change and the computer automatically will scoot back to the Tuesday meetings. I did have another question. I don't know so much as to have a thing on webinars is just, I was in that one with the Sierra Club and they were asking for the input at different points in the program. But when I was putting in comments and hitting enter, it just sat there and it didn't look like it was going through. So I didn't know if I'm missing something on trying to put input in on these crucial meetings.
Well, depending on how they have it set up, you may not see the chat being sent, but they'll see that they received it. If they're not receiving it, the only thing I can think of is that potentially they have chat disabled for participants.
No, they were asking for input into the chat. So even though I'm seeing it, it doesn't look like it's gone anywhere, then they're probably seeing my input.
They should.
Because many people were putting in their feelings at the moment about a specific aspect.
I would email them and find out if they received your input because it's not clear cut what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The only other thing, and I apologize for not remembering to do this,